Therapy Geeks, a podcast by Luke McGibbon and Louise Taylor.
So this is it. It is being birthed. So Therapy Twerps is happening.
Woo! Okay. So we are. Who are we?
Who are we?
I will. Okay. I am Luke McGibbon. I'm a counsellor from Belfast. I've been working for too long. Too many years. No, about 3. We'll say. Yeah. And you?
I am Louise Taylor, and I am a counsellor working in the Mid-Ulster area. And yeah, I have been counselling now for a couple of years, and I love it.
Isn't it great? Like, we've both been stand-up comedians before. That's how we met. I think we might be in the top 20 Northern Irish stand-up counsellors.
Oh dear.
It's a heady bunch.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, what I was going to say, the reason I think Therapy Twerps came about is because we met in the comedy circuit, but also we think that maybe therapy and counselling is talked about a bit too. It's too. What is it?
It's too well and dreary.
Dreary.
I think it's very. Therapy's quite an exciting thing. I think to talk about, and I understand that to get taken seriously, it has to be draped in academia and science, and great. I'm all for that. But it's nice to talk about the lightheartedness and the joy that therapy sometimes is.
Absolutely, I think it was talking about. You say dreary, I say like heavy. It's very heavy topic.
Sure. Yeah.
I just don't think it has to be.
No, not at all.
So hopefully Therapy Twerps will help in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're talking in this episode. We're looking at therapy and what it is, and and as part of our training, we have to have had personal therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But believe me, I've had quite a lot of therapy over the years. I love it. I'm a fan of it. I think most people could benefit from therapy and looking at themselves and developing self-awareness. And my therapy experiences were mostly positive, actually.
Yeah, me too. I think there's a really good Jung quote. We're both Jung groupies, aren't we?
Yes.
Jung or Young. There doesn't seem to be an accepted pronunciation anywhere I look. I prefer Jung because it makes me sound like I know more about him than I do. But
he's a buddy.
He's our bro. There's a good quote by him which is, "I'd rather be whole than good." And I think therapy and most art makes you, it's work towards being more whole rather than becoming a better person. Though sometimes the two walk hand in hand.
Yeah.
So what is therapy to you, Louise?
Therapy, I think, therapy can be many things. For me, I often find it like a head clear.
Yeah.
Like a processing things. Originally went, I think, whenever I was having difficulty with family relationships, and I was just like, I just wanted a different, a different perspective and a bit of support. I wanted to help myself, but I just felt like I wanted to talk to somebody who was completely removed.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it brilliant. I find it really helpful, and I find it great because a lot of it's about yourself. A lot of issues you're having often are a reflection of what's going on for you and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody, at that time, that man, it was an older man that I went to see. It was in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
He was brilliant. But I often think that it was his kindness and his acceptance that was one of the best things that at that point I really needed, and it really, really benefited me.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I'm sure you probably read Love's Executioner by Yolom, but it's because it's a very popular therapy book, and also if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's brilliant. But he often says, that it's a relationship that heals, and it's something that everyone keeps coming back to over and over again, and there is some scientific backing for it as well if you're an evidence head. But it is the relationship that heals, and sometimes you have to repeat that to yourself like rosary beads whenever you're at the end of your rope. But it is, and I like yourself, I had to go through 20 hours of personal therapy as part of the qualification. I don't know if have you kept on the person that you saw during your foundation degree?
I haven't seen her since I completed the personal therapy, but I would use her again. Like I would consider if there was a time where I wanted to go to therapy again for whatever reason, I would contact her. And she was brilliant.
Same.
She was based in Macrofeld. She's a brilliant woman.
To spend 20 hours with any person, I suppose, is intense, let alone whenever it's in therapy. I think that, yeah, it's like you're saying, it's not so much who they are or what modality they practice, it's the way that you are with them.
Yeah.
I find often when you talk to people who've been through therapy that there's a lot of people with horror stories. Well, not horror stories, just bad stories about bad therapists, well, in their eyes that they've seen. And, therapy is kind of like moisturizer in that you have to, and I'm showing the sort of person I am here by using this simile, but it's like moisturizer in that different moisturizers work better for different kinds of skin.
Yes, they do.
So you need to find the right moisturizer.
Nivea.
You need to find the Nivea of your heart. If a therapist wasn't for you, it doesn't mean therapy is not for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Is what I'm trying to say.
And that's what I say to every client, because I'm private practice and that really works for me. And every client who gets in touch with me, I say, look, I'm not for everybody. And if I am not for you, that does not mean that therapy and counselling is not for you. It just means that we're not that relationship.
Yeah.
But I make that very, very clear before we even start.
Yeah. Oh, good. So you include that in the contract even?
Oh, yeah, I include that in the first contact usually, or like I will say, it's like, to me it's a bit like any kind of, it's like doctors, or hairdressers, anybody you go to for something, some of them you won't get on with.
Absolutely.
They're not for you. That doesn't mean that hairdressers are not for you.
Yeah.
That hair.
Yeah, I'm just going to grow dreads.
Yeah. So I make it clear, I'm not for everybody, and I would say, I might be considered like quite an intense full-on counsellor, but that's the way I am. And for a lot of people, that works. For some, it doesn't, and that's fine. It's whenever I think that counsellors or therapists try and present like they're the best, they're all knowing, and that you can't get any better. I just think it's not true, because we are so different, and everybody responds to different styles and different people. And also, the age-old, you're going to a counsellor, right, and you've got a problem with, say, your relationship with your mother, your relationship, and they remind you of them, or there's something, it can affect how the therapy works.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, one of the great things about therapy is that the therapeutic relationship or interaction is generally sort of a smaller version of the way that person is in life.
Yeah.
And applying that to yourself, because you must, whenever you go through therapy yourself, is that the way you are with your therapist is a little bit, at the very least, of how you are in life. And choosing a therapist when you find someone who reminds you of your dad or your mother in a way, then well, there's work to be done there, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And if that's something that comes up in the therapeutic relation, like if that comes up in the room, like, actually, you really remind me of my mum, then you can discuss it and you can work on it.
Yeah.
But if it's something that actually you think, I feel uncomfortable, I don't trust, I don't like that, it's actually getting in the way. And I'd say try a different therapist, or just go to somebody else.
I think when you feel yourself wanting to try a different therapist, really got to examine the reasons why, because it could be like you're saying there, when they remind you of somebody, in which case there's more that can be done with that, rather than, so for example, I told you about this last time we spoke, that there was a time when I felt like my interactions with my personal therapist were not giving me what I needed, and I started looking for a different therapist, specifically one of a certain modality. And then looking inward, whenever I thought about why, it was because I was kind of looking to I'd done something that I found morally reprehensible, and I was looking for a Gestalt therapist because I wanted to be punished.
Oh, brilliant!
And hey, we've all seen Gloria and Fritz Perls. I know it's not like that anymore, but still, I wanted to confront me or be confronted, and sometimes we don't all know what's best for us, do we?
Do you know what? I just thought you want like a therapist, like dressed kind of in a way that's like a dominatrix with a big wig. Just like, you're naughty.
You've been bad. I did the wrong accent there. That's like a Ballymena dominatrix, I thought, maybe.
Yeah, you
dropped the hay bales again. That's a weapon.
Oh, And that's the thing too with therapists and counsellors, like, you know, their opinion or their judgment doesn't come into it. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
And so say if you feel like you have been really treated somebody badly, or you've done something bad, or you know, they don't really get into that. It's all about your responses, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. It's, and I'm also wondering about, I'm thinking about our core audience, if we have one, which I imagine is going to be, there's going to be a hefty amount of student counsellors in there, and you know, since we're talking about how they, I'm doing air quotes here, they make us do therapy as part of the degree, that so many other students always told me, oh well, I'm doing the 20 hours of personal therapy, but I don't really feel like I need it. Like, I'm fine. Like, you need it the most.
Oh my God.
You're weeping
Yes.
if you think that you're perfect, you know. And I think also, you know, it's like, do they feel maybe like they're better than their clients?
Unbelievable.
Like, there's a million things that you can explore, even if you're actually really happy.
I find that really weird on the course, that there was so much resistance to that from some people, and I did find it very telling. But then my counsellor challenged me on that. She said, but therapy, if you're making people go, it's actually, and they don't want to go, it's counterproductive.
Yes.
So I was like, I understood. I was like, why are they resistant? Why would you resist learning more about yourself? Why would you resist something that can only, in my opinion, really be beneficial?
Yeah.
But then from her perspective, she was like, yeah, it must be really hard for the counsellors that have to spend 20 hours with these counsellors who don't want to be counselled.
Right, yeah. Oh my gosh. Hey, I've sent you this brick wall.
I've sent you this human perfection.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've sent you the goddess Aphrodite. She doesn't want to speak to you. Chill out for an hour. Feel awkward. Here's your £30 or whatever.
And they're like, don't send us any more resistant counselling students.
Well, I mean, you know, if there's even a tiny opening, you'll learn that you're resistant to it, which is at least something. That's a new piece of knowledge that you can work on. Like, we were talking about this a minute ago. Like, what is it that you do with resistance? Like, you know, because the Freudians, of course, or not Freudians, but the psychodynamic and the traditional psychoanalytic types would say, you know, and analyze the resistance and interpret the resistance. But of course, that's quite it could be quite like an assault on you a little bit if someone says, I wonder if you're being mean to me because your dad frowned.
Oh dear.
It's a bit of a sudden leap, you know, whereas the more relational psychodynamic people would empathise with the resistance, and, you know, and see where that comes from, explore it, and maybe analyse it, but to do it with an open, loving heart.
Yeah, well, resistance is futile.
The Borg therapist there.
But then the thing is, I think it's I suppose it's not, people maybe aren't aware that they might be resistant, like in terms of, you know, asking clients to do things outside of sessions, and it's always worth exploring, like if it hasn't been done, you know, why or what's happened, because I found, and I think like the more effort that's put in outside of the sessions, like it reaps the best rewards, really. That's where I think a lot of the therapy is working. The session's just the start, and then it's what you're doing and how you're using what's happened or what's been explored in the sessions outside.
Yeah, totally. Like there was this study that said it was about writing, and it's sort of been incorporated into this growing trend of writing therapy. There's a person on YouTube called Jordan Peterson who's a fairly big deal on YouTube somewhere, and he talks a lot about writing therapy. They had this study where they got a lot of students, and they got them to, well, they had a control group who did nothing, a control group who just wrote about whatever came to them, and the test group which wrote down stories about their lives that they considered to be painful incidents, and found like a massive increase in well-being by the end, and physical well-being as well. Like, they were better at doing sports, like, which is crazy, but it's incredible how concrete that is, to say that you can reach, you know, what Freud was after, which is, you know, catharsis just by expressing it. You write it expressively, you lean on the pencil. If you're angry, you talk about feelings and things like that. So, you know, therapy can often be a rehearsal for that, or a rehearsal for example, if you're angry at your wife, like, you know, I've heard stories of people who worked in a person-centered way, who with somebody who's having marital difficulties, and that person has described the arguments they've had after therapy to the therapist, and it's just been the reflections that the therapist gave to them, because it's a much clearer way of expressing themselves. It's been given to them, and then that way they have the tools to do it themselves in the future.
Yeah. I think, well, I love writing, and I think it can be amazing for people, because the way I speak, people say about my writing, you can hear me in it.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm doing something different when I'm writing. It feels like I'm tapping into a different, like I'm seeing things from a different perspective.
Right. Cool.
So so it's something different. So it's not. I'm not trying to recall everything. I'm just I'm processing.
Yes. That's the working through.
Yes.
Air quotes, but still, it's a great concept, isn't it? Like you're working through something as well. And as you know, oftentimes comedians and things like that, the more pretentious ones, would say that writing jokes, it's not so much about making a joke. It's more like the joke's already there, and you're like an archaeologist discovering it.
Yes.
And maybe it's the same with feelings or any sort of expressive writing.
See, with the writing, sometimes I can come to the place of acceptance through the writing that I didn't get maybe in the therapies. Do you see?
Yeah.
So it's processing.
Yeah.
So you're going, this has happened, and this is really, really upset, and this has really annoyed me, and you're processing, because I think that's where we're going often.
Right.
With a lot of uncomfortable emotions in relationship, you're getting to, well, I think it's important to try and get to a place of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
If you can accept what's happened, if you can accept who you are, if you can accept the traumatic events that have happened, then that's usually where you become more at peace.
Yes, whenever you sort of level yourself out through this. Oh wait, going back to resistance, sorry, something popped into my head, which is, if you're to talk about resistance with a client, maybe don't use the word resistance. It implies something very intentional, and it sounds kind of blamey, doesn't it? Like, I'm sensing some resistance here.
Yeah.
It's like you're saying you're resisting me.
Yeah,
It's
you're
the
not
implicit message.
engaging with this, you're
Yeah.
resisting. And it sounds a bit like, what if you're wrong? What if
Yeah,
you're not?
yeah, and what if you're right as well? Because like, if you're private practice, you know, that's somebody who's paying you money for you to tell them they're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
It's maybe a little too confrontational, but you know, again, moisturizer. Like, maybe some people want to be confronted. Maybe some people are out there looking for that Fritz Pearls to tap his cigar ashes into their hands.
Oh,
Did you hear he did that? No, after, you know the Gloria things, you know? That after, so for anyone who doesn't know, there's this brilliant, it's all on YouTube, and seriously, if you're a student, look at it. If you're not a student, look it up. It's this film that was in the, I don't know, 80s, 70s, 60s, a bit of a wide time frame, but olden times. Olden times, yeah. Maybe don't say that to anyone born in the 80s. But,
I was born in I was 1978.
I'm going to change the subject. No,
I'm 39.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, to anyone listening, neither of us look our age. I look like I was just born. And I'm 27.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. There's this great video on YouTube, and it's a film from I think it is the 60s, so I can't actually say early times, but it's called a film called 3 Approaches to Psychotherapy, and they got a real client, somebody called Gloria, and also she's a brilliant client because she's just so open and brave, and like so emotionally literate for the time as well. Like, and Gloria sees 3 different psychotherapists of 3 different modalities, and these are like the big boys as well. It's like Fritz Perls for a Gestalt session, and it's Carl Rogers for a person-centered session, and Albert Ellis for an REBT session, which is often seen as CBT, but like REBT is still going. It's like a different thing to CBT, but the principles are largely similar, and it's a bit weirder if you look into it. Like, you know, CBT, they would tell you to come up with alternate rational thoughts, and like REBT would tell you to do the same, but then it would tell you to write a song about your rational thought so that you remember the rational, which actually sounds pretty good. But then it has a little sample of the song, and when I read it, I kind of cringe just a little because it's just a little silly, but you know, probably effective. Anyway, so she sees these three guys, and she sees Carl Rogers, and she has a really good session actually, and they seem to be getting somewhere, and like he's wonderful. And then she sees Fritz Perls, and it's important to say that Gestalt people always say Gestalt is not like that anymore, or even then. But Fritz Perls has a pretty tough session with her. He's like really hard on her, and they do that Gestalt thing where they talk about like the body and stuff, you know, and the body is so important, of course. But he's maybe a bit too like immediate. Like she's talking about her safe place, and she taps her chest, and she goes, "Oh, you tapped your chest? Is that your safe place? Is that your safe place, Gloria?" And like, and he says something early on like, "Oh, you're talking about something sad, but you just laughed," which a lot of people do. And he says, "You're so phony," and she's like,
Oh.
you know, 60s. Phony is like calling someone, I don't know, like a bastard now. So she gets really hurt, but you know, he still lays it on thick. Like, and it's still like he's still good at getting insight, because it's roughly the same insight that she was getting to with Carl Rogers, but minus relationship. Like right from the start, she's intimidated by him, and he just is intimidating. But there's a book by her daughter about what happened, you know, with Gloria before and after. She died about 10 years later, but she stayed in touch with Carl Rogers and saw him for years.
Oh, I love
they were brilliant. They're brilliant. And apparently after they stopped filming, Fritz Perls took his cigar, right, and asked Gloria to cup her hands, and he tapped the ashes of his cigar into her hands.
That's terrible.
Imagine if your therapist did that to you now.
And how, but you see, right?
It's the dominatrix one again.
That's it. See, Carl Rogers,
Yeah.
I absolutely adore.
Yeah.
And we're fans of Jung, who is another one.
Yeah.
Freud's so important to learn,
Uh-huh.
but I have issues with Freud.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant he existed, because it started the whole ball rolling.
Yes.
But what I love about Carl Rogers and what I love about Jung is the hope, the kindness.
Yes.
The whole,
Yes.
they've got the answers.
Yeah.
All the clients, there's a lack of arrogance.
Yeah.
You know, there's compassion, there's kindness, but it's the hope that I loved about Carl Rogers. And you have the ability to make your life brilliant. It's all inside you. You just need to trust and believe, kind of.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to a training, spirituality and counselling. It was a weekend session. And I was like, I'm too intense. This is when I was training. I'm too intense. This is too full of. I'm a very passionate, very enthusiastic person. And the woman who was running it she's a remarkable woman. And she said Carl Rogers was the most intense person.
Yeah.
Most enthusiastic. Yes.
Wow.
She said he was an incredibly intense person, but he was remarkable and he was brilliant. And it brought me down, because I think I had this vision of counsellors being really like blank, you know, lacking expression, lacking passion, just sitting, and I don't know, I feel it was like a bit more clinical, I was thinking, and I just thought, I can't fit into that.
Yeah.
That's going to be me having to transmute or transform into somebody I am so not. But she encouraged, and I find it really encouraging that she said that. Actually, you know, Carl Rogers is brilliant. He's person-centered. He's person-centered, that he is.
Yeah.
But my problem with pure person-centered counselling, is I feel, and I feel that sometimes it can feel like you're chasing your tail.
Sure. I think, it's definitely not for everyone. I think that it should be the first thing that you're taught, and it should be something you practice for a long time. But yeah, like you're saying that, sorry, go on.
No, what it was I saw, I think it was a person-centered counsellor, and she was brilliant.
Yeah.
No, she's brilliant. You couldn't have got a more empathic, warm person, but she didn't challenge. She didn't challenge, and I mean just even gently. She didn't challenge on what was coming out, and she just allowed me to explore my way.
Yeah.
Whereas I found during the training, it was the integrated counsellor I went to, she would have challenged, and it was actually in some of the challenges that real growth came at times. But she did it in a very, very gentle, very kind way, and I trusted that she always had my best interests at heart, and I think that's incredibly important if you're going to challenge. The relationship must be very strong. The relationship and there must be trust, and there must definitely, obviously, not be any agenda or something. You know what I mean? But that's where with the pure person-centered counsellor, I feel that if there had been a slight encouragement for me to look. And maybe at that stage I was a lot younger, but if it was more, I'd been more encouraged to look at my responses rather than just letting me go.
Yeah, God.
It would have changed things. But she was absolutely fantastic at what she did. Like, she's a remarkable woman, but that was probably the issue I had with pure person centered.
Yeah, most things don't move if you don't touch them.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a poking.
Yeah. Sometimes you need, you need just a slight, like. There was the thing that was said to me was, I think the challenge that was given me, I think you want their approval. And I was like, no, don't. No, don't.
Yeah.
But then actually, whenever I processed it and thought about it and looked really inside, it was like, yeah, actually, I would really love their approval.
Yeah.
And then acknowledging that, I was able to actually let go of seeking their approval.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's almost the thing, like, sometimes whenever you read about person-centered theory or psychodynamic theory, there's almost like a religious component. There has to be something that you kind of believe in. So, like, in person-centered theory, it's the self-actualizing drive that people know what they need and that they'll go towards it automatically if given the right conditions. Or in psychodynamic, it's like the unconscious, like, if you can't reach out and touch it, it's impossible to know it's there. So it's almost like it's almost religious, and you don't truly believe it until you feel it sometimes. People who you work with person-centeredly solely, and suddenly just through being empathic and unconditionally positively regarding them and congruence, they just seem to reach it on their own. It's like it's that religious experience. Almost it's magical, or you suddenly burst into tears for no reason talking about something like that's. That's the unconscious, and then you go, oh shit, this is real. This is real. But yeah, like I really interested in what you're talking about with challenges, because I think that with counselling students, it generally, that and silence are the two big struggles for people who get started out, or maybe people who've been at it for years. People struggle with being able to challenge or to stay silent with someone. And of course, there's obviously an overlap, because silence can be a challenge. Some people say if you want your client to say something, just be silent and they'll say it for you. Or if you want to ask a client a question, just be silent and they'll answer it for you. That's what it is. But I think that the problem is that when you're taught about challenges, people assume that you're like a lawyer in their head. They're like, they imagine you shouting at someone and saying, like, you can't handle the truth or whatever. But in actual fact, a challenge can be you asking a question with a slight raise in the intonation in your voice. You go, is it that? Or oh, you say this? Or again, just silence in response. The silence is a great one. I love that. If someone says something that you think is not true and you greet it with literally 3 seconds of silence, not even an awkward silence. It's awkward to them because they know deep down that what they've said is not true, but you greet them with that silence and suddenly they just blurt out, or they blurt out the qualifiers, in a way, or they say, well, I mean, I guess this, it's really quite incredible.
But the whole silence. Oh, I just remembered my first few clients and how terrified there's no way I would have gone near challenging.
Yeah, it's completely.
I wouldn't have done, and silences were very hard.
sometimes still struggle myself because all this theory floats around in your head, and sometimes you just want to share it with the client. Sometimes there's real value just to be telling a client what you're trying to do with them, but it's usually better just to shut your mouth.
And I tell you, but silence can be brilliant, and the challenge in the right space, done gently and obviously respectfully, can be incredible. And I have personal experience of that, of how much it helped me.
Oh yeah, it's vital. Like, especially whenever you get to something really painful, or something like that, or something that's going back to earlier, like if you feel you've done something bad and you feel like you need to be confronted, and confrontation and challenge are two different things. I think maybe I wasn't looking so much for confrontation. I think consciously I was, but really I just wanted to be challenged, because at the end of the day, just being confronted isn't always it. You gotta get a bit of a why in there.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. And also the other thing though about me, I like, even though the therapy, and I'm a big fan of it. I love it. I would say maybe the way I see therapy and counselling is a bit American.
Yeah.
It's like, go to your counsellor, go to your therapist. But like going for a haircut or something, or a massage, self-care, clear your head. Go and talk it out, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and that's the way we all should be.
Well, but then the way, like, I see people when I'd be like, I went to counselling, I've been to loads of counselling. Sorry.
That's okay.
I would say that it is a bit like, they would see that as weird, which is alright. I'm fine with being considered weird. I think we're all weird.
Yeah.
But I think it should be a bit more like if you get to the depths of despair, if you're in the depths of despair, that's not when you go counselling. It's too you're too far. Things are too.
Well, not on its own.
No.
I feel like counselling and a range of other measures,
But if it's mild to moderate.
Yeah.
If it's mild to moderate. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Then it's counselling.
Totally.
Now, we know anxiety levels are off the scale.
Yeah.
We're having a mental health crisis in Northern Ireland.
Oh yeah. It's the trauma capital of the world.
Yeah.
It's nice to be good at something, but...
So a lot of people are going to their doctors, getting medicated, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But there's still a huge... So a lot of people are struggling.
Yes.
Actually, the highest rates in the UK.
Yeah.
In Northern Ireland. And still there's a stigma. And still people find it odd. People are having trouble processing the stress that we all live under, in so many different areas. That why I don't understand why people would see it as I don't know. It's just like not a viable option or a good way to look after yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's been a massive leap forward. Like, things are definitely better. Like, 'cause mental health is seen as this populist, maybe, if you're a political person as well. It's a very popular issue to talk about, and it should be, because that's the first step to going towards stigma. But I think it is starting to meet some resistance. We're back. It's starting to meet some resistance in popular culture, but I think that we've gone some way towards accepting that mental illness is not the same as physical illness, or there's certain overlaps. Like, I think to get taken seriously as a thing by the medical profession, that mental health had to be medicalized, which is why you often hear people talking about mental illness like it's like a badge that's on their own. People say my anxiety, or I have depression, rather than I am depressed.
Yes.
And that's because it's it's been medicalized. It's the DSM, and it's in medical textbooks, and you're being taught it as a doctor now, which is great. However, there are obviously setbacks to that. It's great in that it gets people who would never have gone to therapy a million years ago, or in a million years, a few years ago. It gets those people in because they can say, I have depression, and their friends won't go, fucking get back to work, or whatever.
It's all up to you in Belfast.
We've changed. One big building site, Louise. Even I get whistled at. But it gets those people in. But on the other hand, it gets seen as like a badge of identity, and it makes it feel much more permanent, I think. And makes people much more likely to go to medication. I think there's stigma towards medication, and that probably comes from people like us a little bit, because a lot of therapists, and mental health figures are often talking about an over medicated society, and sure, that's true. I just think that there's definitely a big place for psychoactive medication. Psychoactive's the wrong word. That's like hallucinogens. For antidepressants, brain fart.
Anxiety, sure, I've been on medication. This was and it worked. It has a place.
Yeah. And
you have to be so careful.
Yes.
About coming off them, and certainly suggesting to any, I wouldn't. It's just, there's no shame in anything you're doing to try and manage, to try and make your life better and easier for yourself. But it's also being aware that there are lots of other avenues, and that counselling can be remarkable. Yeah,
it can be really magical. I guess that religious thing we were talking about earlier, that is almost like something happens sometimes. It's I'm a stand-up comedian, you're a stand-up comedian, and a good gig feels amazing. But I think the best feeling in the world is when you're in the therapy room and you're having a conversation with someone that feels connected. And I'm sure everyone out there, therapist or not, has had a conversation where they felt so in tune with someone, and that feels, again, I'm using the word religious a lot. I'm not really that religious a person, but Jung talked about religious experiences, and basically he used that to refer to times where he felt whole, rather than a specific religion. Though he was, I think, Catholic or Protestant. He was, we'll say both because it's Northern Ireland. He was all of them, and that's whenever. Sometimes you can feel that wholeness, that religious experience in the therapy room. But medication, I think what the concrete position should be, go if it helps, yes, but maybe not first resort unless you're in a particularly low place. Like some people, you just need it to be able to get to the counselling. Like if someone's missing a million sessions, maybe counselling isn't going great for them. Like maybe the therapy would benefit from them taking medication, making them feel comfortable enough to talk.
Yeah, because dissociation, there could be dissociation and profound depression and other mental illnesses. And if you're at that level, there is not psychological connection. You can't have that. Yeah. You can't have that connection, and I love that. It's all about connection.
Oh yeah, the relationship that heals.
Yeah. I love
rosary
it.
Beads. We had a few topics, didn't we, to talk about?
We did, but we kind of
about 40 minutes.
But I'll tell you what's the good one, because we're both big fans of Jung.
Yeah. Yes.
Jung. He is. I have a crush on a dead man.
Yeah.
I do.
Mr.
He's
Jung.
my favourite theorist.
Really? Oh yeah. Me too. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I just think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, whenever I was training or whenever I was studying, I wasn't that into him. I didn't like the collective consciousness and the archetypes. I was like, whatever.
It's a little bit mystical, isn't it?
Yeah, but then he just kept coming back. And I was like, actually, I love you.
Yeah.
Actually, I really love you.
I think, do you know, was there a particular concept that sold you on him?
There's quotes. See, I'm big into quotes and memes. Like, I'm obsessed with memes. I don't care.
Should be a Jung meme page.
Oh yeah, I had 10 Jung. I put them on my Instagram, and I had 10 Jung quotes all together, and I shared very happily. But there was a quote that I love, and it's, think about the things that you did as a child that made the hours feel like minutes, and that is what you should be doing.
Yeah, he's talking about play, wasn't he, as well? That the important things in your life should feel like play.
Yes.
And like that time, just those times where you feel really connected to someone, that does feel like play.
It does.
Yeah.
Counselling. It does.
It's like you're just messing about.
It kind of feels that the times changed.
Yeah.
There's a different. I also did my time in nature. I feel like that.
Yeah.
Counselling, workshops. I feel like that a lot. So what I suppose I really learned from Jung is making the things that you do.
Yeah.
Kind of like it's. You're saying religion and spirituality. It's making the things that you love and you do, making that your life. I love it.
He's the man.
He is.
It was I love that. Actually, he used to. He had this weird wilderness phase where he retreated into what he called active imagination, which is a state where he just sort of closed his eyes and thought of nothing and let the unconscious fill it out and went on this incredible unconscious journey. He wrote it in a book called The Red Book, which seems to go to hell of some sort and find the soul, and it's all very incredible. But one of the things he did during his sort of wilderness phase, or nervous breakdown if you want to call it that, was play with toys that he used to play with as a child, building blocks, things like that, just to connect with that side of himself. Sorry.
No, sorry, no. But see, that's how I feel about nature now. So whenever I read that quote, I was thinking, right, what did I, as a child?
Yeah.
And it was all in fields, by stream, jumping over streams, climbing trees, all that there. So I was like, I used to just love spending time in the countryside and spending time in nature. And it's actually now I've gone back to reconnect. Like I've gone back to nature a lot. So I'd walk every day. I do a walk a day.
And how do you
But it's
feel about
always
that?
I love it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Right, yeah, it's great, isn't it? We've had a similar thing because I've discovered just walking to work just makes everything okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's time alone, isn't it? Which is what everyone needs. I think too. Everyone needs
Solitude.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
That is a biggie, and that's where you see my walks in nature with the dogs. Right, the dogs are great. So it is the solitude, because sometimes I will go on walks with other people, which is nice enough, but it depends on how they are.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the time, like if they're not in a good space, that the walks I think are recharging. They recharge me, they rejuvenate me,
Yeah.
they'll clear my head, and I find they are therapeutic. They're good for me in many ways. But if I go on a walk with somebody who is having a hard time, they don't recharge me.
Right. Yeah, and
So the solitude's important.
yeah, it's not what you do; it's the company you keep.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's not like it's nice to be able to support people and to walk with them. But I noticed the difference in how I felt after them. And I also consider my walks like antidepressants.
Well, I guess you get endorphins going to
Yeah. They would be like when you're managing it, because if I miss them, I notice it. I notice that I don't feel as recharged.
Yeah.
And I think they're brilliant. But dreams. That was our dreams.
Well, yes, we got one from a good friend of the show. Good friend of the show, a fellow called Dave McCaggy from Newton Arts. And I've got one or two. If you've got one or two to share as well.
I can think of my last one.
Yeah.
Because I don't really dream that much.
Okay. Right.
Which is like, I'm not alarmed or worried.
It's just literally to do with sleep quality and how much you're focusing on them. That's how that it shows. That is the determinant of how often you will remember your dreams. Like light sleep tends to produce more vivid dreams. Like people who you can make yourself lucid dream. I wouldn't really do it too much myself because I wouldn't want to interfere with the path of the dream. I feel like dreams give you a bit of a message of where to go a little bit. But people who lucid dream, one of the big things they do is they call it wake back to bed, where you set your alarm for 6 hours into your sleep, you wake up, you pace about for 20 minutes, or you just do amble about, and then you go back to sleep and your dreams are much more vivid. And you'll find that if you've got kids yourself, so you've probably been woken up at 6 in the morning a few times and gone back to sleep.
Yeah, and I'm not chasing dreams at the minute, because there's actually a woman I met who has dreams. Her dreams are incredible. There's just constant. It's like a film.
Brilliant.
In her head.
It's exciting, isn't it? It's if you remember to write it down, you go, oh, great. It's a new thing. It's completely made from nothing and given to you like a little gift.
But I would like to say that if we do interpret your dreams, please know that we're not. Actually, this is not fact.
This is fact.
Well, it's just our suggestions. Yeah. It's just looking at what the symbolism might mean.
Yes.
And also, don't live your life by what we say.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a wee disclaimer. Don't change your life because of look at Louise' dream interpretation.
The thing is, dream interpretation isn't. It's not science, obviously. It's got all the scientific credibility of tarot cards, but
nothing against tarot.
Nothing against tarot cards. But it doesn't matter.
No.
If if it gets you thinking about something new, or talking about something new, or looking at yourself in a new way,
Yeah.
does it matter if it can appear on a scanner or whatever? You know, it's still a way of growth. I guess we could give a brief summation of different dream theories before we continue. Would that be prudent?
Well, I would just, the one I know is just like Jung saying it's like your subconscious or conscious contact. It's just like here.
Yeah.
This is how, here's some information about what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more, you know, and I see them as kind of like they could possibly guide you.
Yeah, totally. Like with Freud, they were like the unconscious was just like a rubbish pile. It was where you put everything that you didn't want to look at.
Yeah.
And so he thought the dreams were like wish fulfillment, you know, and you could come, like, it doesn't mean that if you have a dream about jumping off a plane, you want to jump off a plane, but he thought that you would talk about the plane and what the plane symbolises, and then you talk about what the thing that the plane symbolises, and you could free associate with that and that forever until you come up with something completely different. But I'm not that big a fan of that, whereas Jung more looked at, he would get one association for each symbol in the dream, and see how that puts together, and generally see if there's a suggestion, something you can do from that. So yeah, like a growth step, something to guide you, basically.
Yeah.
So maybe if the dream Dave's given us is quite old,
He's given quite a few, but I was going to talk about my one first.
I think, yeah, how recent is it?
I can't remember, a few months ago.
A few months,
I
okay.
seriously don't really remember. Like, this one was very full on, it woke me up.
Uh-huh. Oh.
Oh, it was good.
Scary.
It's a bit of a, it's like a very full on one, like.
Okay.
But it's short.
Yeah.
Basically, Jesus Christ on the cross.
Oh yeah, you told me about that one, yeah.
Jesus Christ on the cross.
Yeah.
And then the most massive flash of like an explosion, like I can only imagine like the atomic bomb kind of like light. They say pure light in front of him, and then when the light kind of went and he was gone.
Right. Wow. Okay.
What does it mean? Like,
Wow. Whoa. Well, let me give a traditional evasive therapist answer and say that the best interpreter of a dream is the dreamer, and all that any therapist or analyst can do is ask you the right questions to have a bit of a hogue at it.
Okay.
Can I recommend some books before we continue, actually, on dreams?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Inner Work by Robert A. Johnson, and here's the big one, this one's great. Let Your Body Interpret Your Dreams by Eugene Gendlin. He gives you these 12 questions to ask of the dream, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll try. And it just really, it probes. It's you get deep, you know. But okay,
Yeah.
so let's see. We'll get some associations first. There's about 2 or 3 things there. So Christ was on the cross, did you say?
Like he was like the head down, you know, the head down, the thorns, and like it was a really somber, sad, you know, suffering Christ.
Okay. Suffering Christ, right?
And then
Okay.
the burst of light.
Okay, and then he's gone.
And then he's gone.
So, and white light, did you say?
White light,
White
yeah,
light.
the whitest, brightest white light, and then he was gone, and then it all gone.
Okay, so there's Christ, there's the cross, and there's the explosion or the light.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say, was it an explosion, or did you just see light? Did you see an explosion?
I keep thinking it's like it must have been like you know, like they talk about when the atomic bomb was just light.
Yeah.
Like that.
Wow. It's quite a powerful dream.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the first questions would generally be to get some associations, but I think I'd like to go for what was the feeling of the dream? Like, how did you feel?
Intense.
Oh, it was intense. Okay, like scary.
No, it was like wow.
Wow. Okay, so it's impressive.
Yes.
Right. Wow. Okay, so that's right. That's important. So there was a feeling of intensity of amazement.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say so we've got Christ, the cross, and the explosion. Like, what comes to mind immediately when you think of Christ? You can come up with a few different ones. Kindness, right?
Integrity. Brilliant.
Brilliant
Man.
Right. Wow. Brilliant. Okay. And the cross.
Injustice.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah.
Misunderstood.
Yeah.
How could you do that? How could you do that? The you know, how could they do that to such a person? So, is it because incredulous? Like it's just, I don't know. There's be
You were aghast.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, but it wasn't like, there wasn't like anger or anything. It was just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then, you know, gone.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. And this is why the dreamer is the best at interpreting it, because if it was me giving that interpretation, I could come up with something completely different, and it would be utterly meaningless towards Louise. Like the example given in some books is that if, for example, if someone's dreaming about a lid, you would go, oh well, you're keeping a lid on things, something's being held down. But then you ask the dreamer, what is a lid to? And they go, well, it's something you screw on or screw up. So they're not dreaming of putting a lid on something, they're dreaming of screwing up something.
Yeah.
But anyway, so just explain why we're getting your personal interpretation.
Yeah.
And then this explosion. So what do you think of the explosion? What comes to mind?
Actually, do you know what? I think something good happened.
Yeah.
It was and this had to happen, and then this happened.
Yeah, because he wasn't dead, he just disappeared.
Yes. And
He's
then
gone.
the light, it's the light, but then I would be, people bringing light, and with Jung, it's about light, dark, and shadow, and light,
Sure.
So the light's very important.
The light's not good.
Yeah,
Positive.
Light's positive.
And then he's gone.
He's gone.
And
The suffering ended.
the suffering did it.
Oh.
And so there was a good part of you that was suffering and injustice. And
Oh my
do you know what, you're reaching for a pen.
I love this.
This is one of the other gambling questions: is to phrase the dream in a sentence of a short story, basically in a narrative sense. Because it's, I think, what was it? Because he grouped each three of the 12 questions into certain structures. So it was like, first 3 was associations of some sort. So it was like free associate something, get symbols that aren't necessarily personal, because Jung believed in things that weren't necessarily personal entering the dream, like mythology. That's stuff that's from the collective unconscious, that's things that are in the back of everyone's head somewhere, which is why certain religions from countries that have never met are the exact same with different names. But
Oh yeah.
sorry, I was a big concept crammed in there. Just
Brilliant.
so the free associations, personal associations, and there's the impersonal associations, and then there's the third question I can't remember. But the 3 questions are about story structure. So that one about phrasing it in one story. Like, so there's a good part of you, it's suffering, and there's a flash of light, and it's gone. Okay, and the feeling of the dream, of course, the feel quality is intensity. What were you going through anything?
Oh, you're good at this.
Well,
I think you need to be you're doing the dream. I'm not, because this is I'm not. This is brilliant.
What was going through? What were you going through at the time? A few months ago.
Yeah, but it was. I think a lot of it was connected to knowing myself and acceptance. I'm obsessed with acceptance. Accept yourself. Accept all your flaws. Accept the good and the bad. And I don't know. I think it might have been connected to that, and also spiritual. Like, I find it hard. I'm not religious at all, but I find it hard not to think in terms of spirituality. So I think for me it could have been just like, boom, spirituality.
Right, white light
Yeah.
is very, very connected to
things like
spirituality.
That. But I've been thinking about this. Look, I think we were talking, because I'm aware we're getting close to an hour here.
We are actually.
And I'm just thinking.
We'll wrap up after your dream.
We'd said we were going to do the dream, but I think we should do it for the guests.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if it's so important,
You need the interaction.
then you need the interaction in their context,
Yeah.
and the guests are next.
Sorry,
because
Dave.
we'd like a guest.
We'll
Sorry,
give-
Dave.
we'll give
but
you a
we
lift.
want Dave to be a guest.
We'll give you a lift next time.
Because I think that's important.
Yeah.
Because me actually telling you how I felt and all that there is actually really important. Reflecting on that
Do you
thing.
feel like a catharsis talking about it of some sort, or
Yeah. Oh,
just a flash of insight, maybe?
I just find it
Like, pat
fascinating.
myself in the back.
What the look?
Did you feel any insight? It's like at the end of a session going, so was that good for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is insightful, isn't it?
Well, it can be. I mean, it was the dream. It was insightful, not me.
You were good now.
No, stop.
Oh dear.
We will. I feel like there's some more questions, but I can't remember them. I'll just bring the book next time. I'll have to manage it. It's class.
But I think the dream interpretation. See, with I would use like the books or the different resources on the internet. There's some brilliant resources about dream to look at it and the symbolism towards so whenever I had that, I was straight on going right. Jesus Christ on the cross, dream interpretation, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how. It's not that I don't
Probably
think
common search. I imagine.
Yeah, it's a very common. And then it gave. What I did though, there were several meanings. But the one I felt connected to, and I was like, that was the one that I went for.
Oh, right. Well, this is it. In some books they talk about bias control, that whenever you interpret your own dreams, and I do it all the time. Sometimes you go for well, you should go by your gut. You should go by what you feel. But sometimes you go through resistance to the option that is easier for you or something. Which is maybe the problem with dream dictionaries. Other than that, they neglect the personal aspect of a dream. Like Jesus Christ can mean a completely different thing to you than to someone else. Like, imagine if Satanists dream about Jesus Christ.
Satan's a construct. Did you know that?
What?
Satan is a construct that was apparently made up by the church.
There's
Gallagher.
There's a
apparently
conspiracy podcast coming up now.
Apparently, therapy twerps. Remember the name for therapy twerps.
The Da Vinci twerp code next.
Yeah.
So
I find that interesting. Somebody's shared something about that.
One more thing about the dream, because I don't want to let it go just yet.
Yeah.
I wonder if this might be outside, and this is me putting something in from outside, but I think when you're interpreting someone else's dream, always phrase everything in the form of a question, because a dream is a personal space in a way. Mm-hmm. And if you just say, you're dreaming about this, it's like me putting something on you. But can I ask, maybe, were you, because there's obviously symbolism of martyrdom with Christ on the cross. So like, were you doing something for somebody else that you didn't feel you needed to be doing?
God, that's now. I wouldn't identify as a martyr a lot of the time. I would look at people, like, I have got so much to do.
Yeah.
I work so hard, know. I wouldn't be like that. And also with a lot of people who maybe complaining about, I'm not talking about clients or anything, I'm talking about people who I come across, and if they're always constantly complaining about their work and all that, I'd say, don't do it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be somebody who would identify that. But I think I am. I think there's a slight martyrdom.
Well, there's something in your subconscious that maybe thinks that there's a bit of martyrdom in there.
Yeah, a bit like, why did they do that to me? Or why did they do that? Which is fine. There's nothing wrong, but it was identifying it as you're not this hard done by. And I would say about the victimization or feeling like a victim, and really explore that, because I think that's an incredibly unhelpful place to be sitting in, a mindset, to be sitting like, I've been really badly treated. Yeah. And you can be badly treated, but to kind of constantly feel like a victim is incredibly disempowering.
No, it's not good for you. I think that's a whole podcast in itself, victim mindset, because the idea of victim mindset is often something that's co-opted by, well, I was going to say right-wing politics, but also left-wing politics. It's co-opted by people who are looking to disempower people by saying that anyone who ever complains about anything is just making themselves a victim which, some people are, but also some people just have legitimate complaints.
Yeah, and that's fine, and complaints are really fine, and that's brilliant. But it's, I suppose, I think that, martyrdom or feeling like that is something that possibly, I do feel at times without being fully identifying it as a part of my personality.
Yeah.
But I'm just aware of time.
Yes, we're on 57 minutes.
But I think then our next podcast should be about what we were hoping to talk about, which is news.
Oh yeah.
The news, therapeutic news, and things like that.
The implications of world events, which...
And Trump.
Because nobody is sick of talking about Trump. Yeah. No one. Yeah. But no, it's important. I think people don't talk about it through this lens, which,
But Trump wouldn't go to therapy. Like, he would not be a client.
No. Do you know even Nigel Farage probably has PTSD, because he was in a plane that crashed and he nearly died, and when asked if he had gone to therapy about it, he said, no, that's not for me.
Yes, and that's the thing. There would be people we'll talk about that. I think that's a brilliant thing to talk about, because and Trump and the types of people who just don't want to reflect, don't want to develop awareness, and have no interest.
Yeah.
They're not coming through the door.
Well, I mean, why would you want to go to therapy if you're always right?
Why indeed? So that's the first step.
I feel like that went well.
Yeah.
How do you feel, listeners? I haven't addressed any of them yet. Here, actually, it would be great if this was like a conversation with you guys. So if you have anything you'd like to add or ask, any dreams you'd like hooked at, it wouldn't be very good without you being personally there, but if we've got a bit of spare time, we might have a little hook. And here, well, I guess, should we ask like a big question, and people can, I mean, resistance came up a lot. We could ask what people deal with resistance, or how do they resist,
or just any any feelings, thoughts, or anything on therapy. Counselling, good, bad, send it in.
Give us a shout.
Are we So that, I want a jingle.
Well, do we do it now, or should we edit it in?
I'll think about it, but it's something
Do
along
you hear
the
the
lines.
nerves the nerves of anyone who's just realised they might have to sing?
There'll be something like therapy twerps, and that's going to be us, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very radio-y. Which,
Yeah.
most podcasts aren't that radio-y.
No.
I'm saying it's a good thing that we're not being like most podcasts. We're unique. We're setting the trend.
Yeah, we're plodding down. We're pioneers of therapy twerpery. I won't do the end of that.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, we'll end on that.
All right,
End
thank
on
you.
you saying we'll end on that. That's good.
Thanks for listening to Therapy Geeks. Find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Deezer, Listen Notes, Stitcher, Podcast Index, and Buzzsprout. Give us a like or a follow or a subscription, whatever your podcast app allows. Thanks for listening.
You're standing